this actually starts with the impact on the client. When we thought about creating the Trucordia client experience, we started with client interviews. What are those pain points? What's working for you? What do you like? What do you dislike? And really kind of using that as our design principles, for lack of another nerdy term, of like how we're gonna actually pull this off.
Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Sandy Laycox, Editor-in-Chief of Leader's Edge. In this podcast, recorded on-site at the 2025 Insurance Leadership Forum, I talk with Michael Moran, Chief Operating Officer at Trucordia. Our conversation centers around M&A, specifically around the integration process that Trucordia has undertaken after being a substantial brokerage acquirer over the past few years. We start with a discussion of the process of working an acquired firm through integration.
I'd say first off, you have to know why you're integrating. What's the actual rationale that everyone can buy into? If you're not clear on why you're doing it, it makes it really hard to explain and convince people that this is the right thing to do. So at Trucordia, we focus on three things on why do you want to come together as one firm. The first and the most important is it helps you serve clients. When you come together, you can do more for your client, and that actually is what we're all about: winning at the front of the business, and so helping our producers win. So number one rationale, why are we doing this? It's to help clients. From a business perspective, second rationale is you get economies of scale, and much of what we do in this business actually is scale driven. So let's capture those economies of scale where they exist. And then third reason is when you come together, it's actually a safer enterprise to work for. You have controls over finances and regulatory controls and cyber. All these risks that can really be quite damaging to a firm are much harder to manage when you're fragmented. And so by coming together, you're actually better able to manage the firm. So I think it starts with a really clear understanding of what is it we're trying to do. It's not about integration. It's about better serving your clients. It's about capturing economies so you can reinvest that to your front line and to make sure that you're a safer firm that's going to be around for the long term.
And when you're thinking about culture, I would imagine when Trucordia is looking at a potential acquisition, is that something that they're looking at like, this is one that will integrate well with ours? Or are those part of the decision?
100%. So the integration starts at the first conversation about an acquisition. You really have to be clear about who you are as a firm, what you value, what you're looking to do going forward. So you're aligned on your interests, you're aligned on what the game plan is going to be once the firm comes over. We're talking to entrepreneurs who have spent their entire careers building up these fabulous businesses, and we have to meet them where they're at and really understand what they're trying to achieve and explain who we are and what it's going to be like, and be as clear as we can on the expectations. So pre-deal, that's when the integration has to begin. From that point forward, it's really around understanding who we are in terms of how we operate and the values. So at Trucordia, when we rebranded, we came out with our set of values that we're committed to delivering. So it's not just about winning at the front line, but winning at the front line aligned to our values. And so that's resonated with a lot of firms in terms of thinking about, we want to be part of that. We want to get the advantage of being part of a large firm, but we do want to align to the values, and we understand where it is that Trucordia is going. So it does start with those conversations. You mentioned about cultures. There's a lot of different ways that firms have been built up and how they operate, and we have to really understand and listen and meet them where they're at, and respect and give them a berth to kind of do that, to have the space to still be themselves as they migrate towards the Trucordia way of doing things. So it's not you can't force it.
Yeah.
It has to happen pretty naturally, and that's through a lot of listening and a lot of being really understanding who we are and where we're going and what we're all about.
Has there ever been a firm that just has not been able to kind of wrap their heads around that part of things, and it just didn't? There
have been plenty pre-acquisition.
Where you then decided not to.
It's not a fit.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's totally fine. They could be a fit elsewhere.
Yeah.
Good. That's great. That's not for us. And that's totally fine. I would say, has there been any, when PCF, we were formerly called PCF, the proposition to new acquisitions was different. It was, we're going to not integrate much. We're going to let you do what you've been doing. That has, over time, changed to how Trucordia now operates. So we are asking more of what these firms that were acquired years ago, like to become part of the firm.
That's interesting. So that's for someone who maybe wasn't brought in with that there now experience. Can you talk to us about why that strategy changed?
Yeah. The reason the strategy changed is all the things I talked about earlier. It's about how we better serve clients. That's number
You
one.
just found that it's not going to work.
We can do more for clients. We can drive organic growth when we're joined up and working together. We can capture economies of scale and really simplify our business and really give our producers the tools they need when we work together. And then it's in terms of controls and making sure whether from cyber to financial controls, we're a much safer firm. So for some of those individuals, there is a conversation that is around we are changing. And we really want you to be part of it, and we want you to be a leader in it. And that can take some time, that can take some iterations. At the end of the day, though, we know what we're doing, and we know where we're headed, and we have to make sure that it's a positive for our team. So if I'll say us in the center aren't helping our field perform better, then we're not fulfilling our obligation in the integration journey. So we need to make sure we're doing our part in the center to really drive the field forward, and then that's how the change really is happening. I've been massively impressed with how many individuals, leaders within Trucordia have embraced this idea of we're going to come together, we're going to really work together to better serve clients, and how they pivoted and learned and still kept a lot of their own personality as an agency, but actually said, no, this is something we're pretty excited to be a part of. It's been really, it's been amazing to watch.
We then get into the specifics of operational integration and what is required when undertaking this type of work.
It's been a lot. So first off, from an infrastructure perspective, we're putting everyone on the same technology stack. So one technology platform, that is a non-negotiable. From pre-acquisition, we have the conversation, we're moving you to our technology stack. That's been great in terms of capturing the data, gaining efficiencies and so forth. So there's a couple non-negotiables that we've been driving through. So technology migration to one technology platform, check. We've rolled out a new organizational structure, which is all about allowing autonomy in the field, but still executing, informing, and executing the Trucordia way of doing things. And so we've been listening to our clients, listening to our field, listening to our front line, and really developing what we're calling the Trucordia way. So the Trucordia way of how we serve clients. So we've deconstructed the client service model and said, what are the client pain points? What do our CSRs struggle with? And really turn that into a methodology we're called the Trucordia client experience. And so now we're going back out to the field and saying, it's not just about technology, it's actually the outcome you generate for your clients. And going with training and support for our frontline staff. We've done the same thing with the sales side. So we've listened to our producers. What do you need? What's going to help you win more often? And out of that, we've got a whole set of tools, a sales methodology, different new training programs that really are supporting them to be more successful. So we call that very sophisticated, the Trucordia way for sales. And now we're doing the same thing on the broking side. As we now have our data, we now have much better understanding of our relationships with the markets. And the last couple of days at CIAB has been very helpful in those conversations. But establishing, declaring by listening to our frontline staff, by listening to our clients, by listening to our carrier partners, that Trucordia way for broking. And so in each of these areas, it's the idea, it's the culture. You have to start there. You have to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, bring people along. You also got to operationalize it.
Right.
And so if the systems aren't supporting it, the processes aren't supporting it, the compensation schemes aren't supporting it, if you don't have all alignment across how you operate, the change it's really unfair on the frontline staff to ask them to behave differently if we're not going to support it. So a lot of what we've been doing have been those elements, which maybe aren't the most exciting things all the time, but my goodness, they are massively, massively important so we can begin to operate as one firm.
What would you say is the hardest of those?
So they all have their challenges. We really focus on, as much as possible, taking big challenges and dealing with them when they're small and making those incremental steps. So it's not about, this massive outcome. That's where we're tacking towards, but we understand those small wins you got to get along the way to show momentum and to let the team know that this is actually a good thing and get those wins along the way. So each one of the things I've described, whether it was technology or org or rebrand, we're rebranding all our offices as Trucordia, ops side, the client sales side, like all these different components, really deconstructing that, how are we going to get there, having those wins along the way. So they all have their challenges. I think in terms of what's most difficult, it's the things you can't control, right? So the ones that we can fully control, if you will, I'm using air quotes when I say control, because that's really
so much control.
It's overstating it massively. So the things you can directly influence, maybe I should say, are those that you feel a little bit better about, not quite as hard, but those that you don't control, like what's going on with pricing in the market or carrier risk appetites have changed for good reasons on their side, but how does that affect us? So the more externalities you have, that just drives up the complexity and makes the change that much harder.
Turning our focus outward, we discuss how integration is affecting Trucordia's clients.
We are 100% trying to influence the client experience. That is actually the primary rationale for why we're integrating. How do we make sure that we can consistently deliver across, over 200 acquired agencies, a certain level of service? We can't do that unless we declare what that level of service is, and we help our teams through tools, training, to help them execute that. So this is actually all about the impact for the client, as well as what's the experience of our soon-to-be client prospects. Right? So how do we listen very well? How do we match them to the right risk solutions that are appropriate for them? How do we bring greater knowledge of the market to help them get the best deal possible? So this is very much front and center. This actually starts with the impact on the client. When we thought about creating the Trucordia client experience, we started with client interviews. What are those pain points? What's working for you? What do you like? What do you dislike? And really kind of using that as our design principles, for lack of another nerdy term, of like how we're gonna actually pull this off. So this starts with the client, and if we're not having an impact with the client, I'm not doing my job. Our team's not doing our job.
Are there any pain points that rose to the top that you can share with us that really came through as like this is like the one or two things that our clients are really struggling with?
So I'm a little embarrassed to say, but it's really that consistency of contact and sharing information early and often. It wasn't some magic whiz-bang financial formula. It wasn't some amazing risk product they'd never heard of. It was really more around keep me informed. No surprises, please. Send the invoices that are correct. Don't make me circle back on endorsements because you missed an address or something like that. Like it really was get the basics right every time.
Yeah. Well, hey, that matters, right?
It matters a ton. Our clients are really busy and they don't want to have to deal with our mistakes. So let's not make any of them. Let's really help them out and meet them where they're at.
Let's talk about the rebrand, because that is something that doesn't happen that often, and it's a big deal when it does. So how has that gone? How did you come to the name Trucordia? And are you feeling that it's gotten momentum in the marketplace?
Yeah, so the name Trucordia actually was between the time I was interviewing with PCF and when I joined. I was actually on a fishing trip. So
you're like,
anyway,
who's this company calling me?
Exactly. So no, I love it. I got to be honest. There's really a couple parts to it. One is PCF, fine company, fine name, all that. There's a lot of PCFs in the world. A lot of different organizations around the world actually do use those same initials to represent themselves. So it's not a very scalable or distinctive name. Trucordia is really first part of the word is all about trust, which is something we greatly value. That's part of our values and really important. And then accord, which is really around working together, being one team. And so that kind of merged together to create a new word that didn't exist before.
I love to create new words. It's the best.
Yeah. So that's sort of the background. We went with orange. There's not a lot of orange in our industry. Lots of blues, some reds, and so forth, but not a lot of orange. So that's pretty distinctive. Help us stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
And then, but you asked how's it been going and the impact. And so I'd put it in a couple different categories. One is, again, I really compliment our leaders across the firm, letting go of what had been their agency name and migrating to Trucordia. That's not an easy process. There's been a little mourning for some people, right? And you want to give them space and let them go through that. That's absolutely fine. But we, as a leadership team, know that this is really important that we do, and then we get it right. So we're quite committed to it, and so it's happening. But we do have to give people just time and space to get there. In terms of the challenges, it's a lot of it actually has been as much around email addresses and online presence and domain names and so forth, and the technology side, as more so than things like signage and physical footprint. So getting through that emotional process and then getting through the technology process has sort of been governors in terms of the pace, but we will rebrand over 115 locations in about 9 months this year. So we're rocking and rolling.
Yes.
Like, it's happening. Like, we're gonna get it done and then just go forward as one firm. It's really exciting.
Finally, we discuss what results Trucordia has seen from this work so far.
So our approach to this is, and I've talked to leaders in our business, I've talked to leaders in other businesses, no one's ever said, I wish integration took longer.
It's too fast.
Never. That really, there's a lot of people who have gotten to the other side have said, we probably could have gone faster. So that's who I'm listening to. So we are going really fast. We're asking for a little bit of grace from our team as we make some mistakes along the way. We're not doing it perfect, but we have a great dialogue. We're getting the feedback. We're listening to it, but we are pushing our team very hard to get through this as quickly as possible, because we don't want to be in this transition state. We want to be really front foot and out there winning. You asked the moments that are, kind of bring me most joy in this whole process. It's absolutely about wins. It's about hearing from a producer. I worked with someone who I hadn't met before, and we won this client, or I didn't have a market and someone helped me, and we won the client. And we are getting really good at the velocity of those getting communicated around the firm. So that's why we're doing this. And so when you see that starting to come through and people attributing that win in part to our integration efforts, that's when it's like, okay, this is going to work. This is going to work, and gives you just that much more energy to keep pushing it forward.
That was Michael Moran, Chief Operating Officer of Trucordia, talking with me on site at the 2025 Insurance Leadership Forum. For more from ILF, visit leadersedge.com or find us wherever you listen to podcasts.